Hi guys, I'm Sarah Sicard and I'm a senior editor with Military Times. Today we'll be talking about veterans' mental health and the Vet Dogs organization that helps veterans with service dogs. Joining me today is Joe Worley, a U.S. Navy corpsman, whose experience losing a leg nearly 20 years ago led him to become a program graduate of America's Vet Dogs.
That's right. Hello, hello.
I'm also joined by John Miller, CEO of both America's Vet Dogs and the Guide Dog Foundation for the Blind since 2018. If you guys wouldn't mind, I'd love to do a little bit of an intro. If you could just tell me a little bit about yourselves and how you got started with the organization.
So, like she said, my name is Joe Worley. I was a corpsman with 2-1 Marines, went over to Fallujah, Iraq, and had a bit of an incident. Ended up getting a great parking spot, and here I am. I fell in love with the program because I saw a dog. There was a facility dog with Walter Reed, a chocolate lab by the name of Deuce, primo naming. And so this dog went through all the tasks and ended up putting an application in, got my first dog, and never stopped volunteering. I just love what they do. So here I am with Mr. John Miller here.
So I started, as you said, in March of 2018. Had been with a couple other charities, most notably the American Red Cross on Long Island, and was drawn to the organization immediately when I had the opportunity to meet some of our board members, some of our staff, and of course the program graduates and the students going through the classes. It's really a fascinating service that we provide, and Joe and I are on the road often, doing advocacy work, whether it's here or in Washington D.C. or somewhere across the country, and it's just a great program.
Joe, can you tell me a little bit about how you learned about America's Vet Dogs?
Yeah, so I was actually invited on it's like a veteran sort of, they have sort of like a battery charging trips, and so one of these ski trips I went on, I walked up into the room where occupational therapist Harvey from Walter Reed was there, and that's where I met Deuce, the chocolate lab, and so he actually ran through the tasks that the dog was trained to do, and I put application in within 2 days based off entirely all the wrong reasons. I saw the dog and I saw how well trained it was, and really didn't have a grasp on the difference it was going to make in my life until I got my first dog, Benjamin, in 2008, and holy cow, I was so impressed. It was just a game changer for me. When I realized I needed help very early, and I thought I could handle it on my own, and so when I got to a point to where I couldn't, I had gotten up to about 270 pounds. And my wife is like 120 pounds. And so her helping me out of the floor wasn't really a tenable solution for me to learn how to walk, so I didn't push myself, I didn't walk. So when I got Benjamin, for me, it wasn't so much a dramatic, like, save my life situation that so many other veterans and graduates that we talked to did. For me, I was on the verge of giving up. And I guess maybe that was depression. I luckily didn't get so far into it that I felt that it was that way. My wife would probably argue. But on my end of things, I realized I needed help. I realized that I wasn't comfortable asking my wife for help. So when I got Benjamin and I got the help, not only was he good at helping and made me feel like I had all the help that I needed, he loved working. And it took all the guilt away and all my excuses away. I started taking better care of myself, which really translated into mental health for me. And then, sort of mind, body, spirit. I'm taking care of my body. My spirit feels more fulfilled. I'm learning things. I'm pushing myself. I started volunteering with an organization which took care of a lot of the spiritual need of being involved in things again. And it changed my whole family dynamic because, one, I didn't feel like I was a burden to my wife anymore. And then number two, I felt like I had an extension of myself. They could play with my kids in a yard. They had this game where they would run around the playhouse and they would switch directions, and they had created this game. My daughter was 5, my other daughter was 2, and Benjamin was just, a 2-year-old pup himself. And I'll never forget sitting on the back porch that first time that I really noticed what they were doing. And I didn't feel jealous. I didn't feel like I wish I could run around in the yard with my kids. I felt like Benjamin was doing that as an extension of me. And I was like, not only was he trained to mitigate the physical disability, he's helping me be a part of my kids' lives in a way that I'm not physically capable of doing. And I think that was the first moment where I went from like really appreciating what the organization did to love, to like true, real love. And I realized that I couldn't let other people go without that, without the option of having that, because my window of being able to get help was so wide, because I didn't have any drug or addiction issues. I got off all my medications, no alcohol, anything like that. So getting blown up and almost dying with a 3-month-old daughter you never met can be smooth. It was smooth for me, but it wasn't. And I just wanted other veterans to have access to that. So I fell in love with the education side of things initially.
This is really a question for both of you, but we obviously talk about the sort of physical nature of the help that a service dog can provide. You talked a little bit about your mental health experience. What is, typically some of the other mental health experience that some of the veterans that you've worked with have gone through?
One of the most magical things about these dogs, I call it sneaky therapy, but one of the things that these dogs do, in the midst of somebody who was very reluctant to ever admit that they had PTSD, was the fact that we get out of the military and we island. I don't know why we do it. It's so stupid. I mean, just to put it bluntly, it's the dumbest thing you can do, is to get out of the military and put yourself in a place where you don't have access to a support system anymore. I don't know why we do it, but we do. And having a dog is a big deal, because it gives you an avenue back to society. It gives you an avenue back to people that, I don't mean that it forces you to communicate with people that you don't want to communicate with, but it gives you a feeling of belonging again. And you don't realize you miss it till you get it back. You don't realize how bad it feels to be alone. To like really be alone on a level that changes you. It really does. And it sucks even worse because you've got, a loving family, you've got, a kid, you've got all these things going for you. And you just feel like, why do I feel like such a prick that this doesn't feel like enough? Like, what am I missing? And you realize eventually that you don't feel like you're part of the world anymore. And I'm not saying the dog fixes all those issues for everybody, but if you catch that window when somebody's ready for help, if you can get somebody, if enough people know about this organization, know what service dogs can do for people, it gives you a chance to catch people like it did me, like right in that spot before things get bad. And it can make a difference. It can make you feel like you're part of society again. It doesn't mean I got to talk to everybody who hasn't had the same lifestyle as me, but it did give me an avenue to finally realize that war doesn't have a monopoly on trauma. And it doesn't matter what vehicle really you drove to get there. If you've been through some real crappy stuff, we're all living in the same neighborhood. And it doesn't matter what you're driving. Property values are the same. And for me, having a dog, having this little guy right here, gave me an opportunity to feel like I was a part of society again in a way that I didn't realize I missed.